They told me my father was a fool. A loyal dog who licked the hand of a king for 30 years. They were wrong. My father was the only honest man in that palace, and that honesty is what got him killed. My name is Suyakont. I was born on the same night as Princess Premika, in the same palace, under the same stars. Our fathers, the king and his minister, were closer than brothers. The night we were born, the king made a promise in front of the entire court. When we grew up, his daughter would marry me, the minister's son. He called it destiny. He called it loyalty rewarded. I grew up believing in that promise. I grew up loving Premika before I even understood what love meant. We ran through the palace gardens together, hid from guards together, shared secrets under the same banyan tree. By the time we were young adults, there was no question in my heart. She was mine. I was hers. The kingdom knew it. Everyone knew it. Until the day everything changed. It started with a visit from King Ratan Singh of Ratangar. He saw Premika and me walking in the garden, laughing, close, the way two people in love walk. And I saw something shift in his eyes. Greed. Calculation. He asked my king who I was. My king proudly said, "That is my future son-in-law, son of my dearest friend, Minister Prem Singh." Ratan Singh's face changed. He said something that I will never forget, something I overheard through a half-open window. A princess, marrying a commoner's son? What a waste. And then he made an offer. His own son, Prince Bhim Singh, would marry Premika instead. Two kingdoms, united by royal blood. More power. More wealth. More glory. I watched my king's face as he listened. I watched greed slowly replace decades of friendship. I didn't know it then, but in that single conversation, my entire life was being sold away. The king had one problem though. Premika and I knew about our engagement. We would never accept this betrayal quietly. So they needed a way to remove me, without making it look like betrayal at all. That evening, the king called me to his chambers. He smiled at me the way he always had. The same warm smile I had trusted my whole life. "Suyakont," he said, "I have an important task for you. Our palace lake is full of red lotus flowers. I have heard that in the Alaknanda forest, there is a lake with blue lotus flowers. Flowers so rare, so beautiful, that no king has ever owned them. I want you to bring some back for our garden." It sounded harmless. Almost silly. A king sending his future son-in-law on a flower-picking errand. But I didn't question it. I trusted him completely. I bowed, told my father I was leaving, and set off toward Alaknanda forest that very same day. I didn't know it then, but that walk away from the palace was the last time I would ever see my father alive. The moment I was gone, the king moved fast. He called his queen and told her the engagement with me was cancelled. He was marrying Premika to Prince Bhim Singh instead, in just 7 days. The queen was shocked. She reminded him of his promise, the promise he made the night we were both born. His response chilled me when I later heard about it. He said the promise was made in a moment of foolish emotion. He said a princess deserved royal blood, not the son of a mere minister. Years of friendship. Years of trust. Erased in one sentence, because of greed dressed up as pride. Then he called my father. He ordered the entire kingdom to be decorated like a bride. Flowers, lights, banners, everything. My father, confused and happy, asked what celebration was coming. The king told him, Premika's wedding, in 7 days. My father, sweet, loyal, trusting man that he was, reminded the king gently, but Suyakont has gone to fetch blue lotus flowers. That journey takes at least a month. How can the wedding happen in a week if it's meant to be his? The king's mask finally dropped. Who told you, he said coldly, that Premika's marriage is with Suyakont? We are breaking that old arrangement. She will marry Prince Bhim Singh of Ratanga instead. My father, the man who had given 30 years of loyal service, who had treated this king like a brother, stood there in disbelief. He said, calmly but firmly, that this was wrong. That people would talk. That the king's own word, given before the whole court, could not simply be erased. He said he would raise this matter the next day, in open court. In front of all the nobles and ministers. He wanted the king to remember, publicly, the promise he had made. The king's face turned to stone. You will humiliate me. In front of my own court. You dare. And before my father could even respond, before he could even step back, the king drew his sword and struck him down. One blow. My father, who had served him faithfully for 30 years, who had never once raised his voice against him, fell dead on the marble floor of the palace he had protected his whole life. They didn't even let his body cool before continuing the wedding preparations. When Premika heard what had happened, both about the wedding and about my father's murder, she broke down completely. She refused. She screamed at her father, told him she would never marry Bhim Singh, that her heart belonged only to me. The king's response was simple and brutal. Then you'll have to walk over my dead body to refuse this. She had no one. I was gone. My father was dead. My mother, when she heard the news of my father's murder, couldn't survive the shock. Her heart broke, literally. She died of grief within hours. Premika was alone. Completely alone. And exactly 7 days later, just as the king had planned, Prince Bhim Singh's wedding procession arrived from Ratanga. The wedding happened. Drums, flowers, celebrations. While my father's blood was barely dry on the palace floor. Meanwhile, I was walking back from Alaknanda forest, carrying the blue lotus flowers the king had asked for. I had no idea, none, that my entire world had been destroyed while I was gone. On my way back, I passed by a small temple. Something told me to stop and pray. As I approached, an old sage sitting under a tree near the temple called out to me. Suyakont, he said, what is left for you in Kolhapur now? Your parents are gone. Premika is married to someone else. Why are you going back? I laughed, actually laughed, thinking this old man was confused or joking. What are you saying, Rishiva? I don't understand any of this. He looked at me with eyes that held no doubt, no hesitation. I have seen it with my divine sight. Premika has already married Prince Bhim Singh of Ratanga. Your father, Minister Prem Singh, was killed by King Vijay Singh himself. And when your mother heard of his death, the shock killed her too. The world stopped. I stood there, the blue lotus flowers still in my hands, and I felt something inside me shatter into 1,000 pieces. My father, my mother, Premika, gone, all gone. In the time it took me to walk to a forest and back, my entire life had been erased by the man I had trusted as a second father. King Vijay Singh. King Vijay Singh, I whispered, my hands trembling. I never imagined he would fall this low. He destroyed my entire world. And in that moment, Standing in front of that temple, holding flowers meant for a garden that was never really for me, something inside me died. The boy who trusted blindly, who believed in promises and old friendships, who walked away without question because his king asked him to, that boy died right there. What rose in his place was something else entirely. I knelt down. I didn't cry, though my chest felt like it was on fire. I made a vow, right there, to the gods, to my dead parents, to myself. I will make King Vijay Singh pay for everything he has taken from me. Not with a sword. Not with a quick death. He took everything from me slowly, carefully, while smiling to my face. I will take everything from him the exact same way. The sage watched me. He didn't try to comfort me. He simply said, "Revenge built on rage burns out fast, Suyakant. Revenge built on patience, that can last a lifetime, and it can destroy a kingdom." I asked him to teach me. Whatever he knew, strategy, disguise, influence, anything. I had nothing left to lose, which meant I had everything to gain. For the next 2 years, I stayed near that temple. The sage taught me how kingdoms worked from the inside, how trade routes could be poisoned without poison, how loyalty could be bought and sold like grain, how a single rumor planted in the right ear could topple a throne faster than any army. I changed my name. I changed my face, grew out my beard, wore the clothes of a traveling merchant. The soft, naive boy who had once trusted a king completely was gone. In his place was a man who trusted no one, who watched everything, who waited. I learned that King Ratan Singh, the man who had started all this with his greed, was deeply in debt. His kingdom looked wealthy from the outside, but inside, his treasury was nearly empty. He had been borrowing from merchants across 3 kingdoms to maintain his lavish lifestyle. This was my opening. I spent the next year building a trading network, small at first, buying and selling grain, cloth, spices. I was good at it. Better than good. Within months, merchants trusted me. Within a year, I controlled enough trade routes that I could quietly start buying up Ratan Singh's debts from other lenders, at a discount, through people who never knew my real face. One by one, I became his biggest creditor. He didn't know it. To him, I was just a wealthy merchant from the south who occasionally extended his loan repayment dates as a courtesy. While I built this financial trap, I also began rebuilding contacts inside Kolhapur. My father had been loved by the common people and by many in the lower ranks of the court, guards, servants, clerks. They had never forgotten how he died, or how unjust it was. Quietly, carefully, I reconnected with them. Not as Suyakant, as a merchant offering information services, paying well for small details about what happened inside the palace. I learned that Premika's marriage to Bhim Singh was a cold, loveless arrangement. She lived in Ratangar now, isolated, watched constantly, never truly accepted by Bhim Singh's family, who saw her only as a political trophy, a connection to Kolhapur's resources. I learned that King Vijay Singh had grown paranoid in his old age. Guilt, perhaps, or fear of revenge from someone, though he had no idea who. He had increased palace guards. He trusted almost no one outside his inner circle. Good. Paranoia is a weakness, if you know how to use it. My plan had 3 parts. First, financially trap Ratan Singh, so that when the time came, I could call in his debts all at once. Debts so large that repaying them would mean giving up land, soldiers, even his throne. Second, expose the truth about my father's murder to the people of Kolhapur, not through accusation, which could be denied, but through evidence. I had spent months gathering testimony from servants who witnessed the murder, including the very guard who had been standing closest when King Vijay Singh struck my father down. Third, and this was the part that took the longest, the part that required the most patience, I needed to get close to Premika. Not for revenge against her. She was a victim too, just like me. But because she was the one person who could confirm, publicly, what had truly happened on that fateful night of our birth, and what promises had truly been made. It took 3 years total. 3 years of building, watching, waiting. 3 years of being patient while my heart screamed for immediate justice. Finally, everything was in place. I arranged, through my merchant network, to attend a grand trade summit being held in Kolhapur, where kings from neighboring regions gathered to discuss trade agreements. Both King Vijay Singh and King Ratan Singh would be present. Even Bhim Singh and Premika were expected to attend, as Ratangara's royal family. On the day of the summit, I made my move. First, I had my agents quietly inform Ratan Singh's most powerful lenders, all of whom were secretly controlled by me through intermediaries, to call in all his debts simultaneously, on that very day, in front of the gathered kings. The demand was staggering. Ratan Singh's kingdom couldn't pay it. His financial ruin became public, humiliating him in front of every other ruler present. His allies, sensing weakness, began distancing themselves immediately. Years of secret debt, exposed in a single afternoon. While Ratan Singh was reeling from this humiliation, I made my second move. I revealed myself. I walked into that grand hall, not as a merchant, but as Suyakant, son of Minister Prem Singh. Many in the older generation recognized me instantly. Gasps spread through the room like fire. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse wildly. I simply asked for the guard, the one who had witnessed my father's murder, to be brought forward. He had agreed, months earlier, to testify if the moment ever came, in exchange for protection and a new life far away. He stood, trembling, and told the entire court exactly what he had seen. King Vijay Singh striking down his most loyal minister with a single sword blow, for nothing more than reminding him of a promise. The hall went silent. King Vijay Singh tried to deny it, tried to call the guard a liar, tried to have him removed. But it was too late. Other witnesses, servants I had spoken to over the years, began stepping forward too, one after another, each confirming pieces of the same story. And then Premika stood up. She looked at her father, King Vijay Singh, with eyes that held 3 years of buried pain. And in front of everyone, she confirmed it all. The original promise made the night we were both born. Her own refusal to marry Bhim Singh. Her father's threat that she would have to walk over his dead body to refuse. The murder of my father. The death of my mother from grief. She turned to me, and for the first time in 3 years, I saw the girl I once loved, not as a princess anymore, just as someone who had suffered exactly as I had. The other kings present were horrified. A king who murders his own loyal minister over wounded pride, who breaks sacred promises for political gain, who threatens his own daughter, this was not a man fit to rule. One by one, the visiting kings withdrew their support, their trade agreements, their alliances. Within months, Kolhapur's economy began to collapse from isolation. The very throne King Vijay Singh had killed to protect started crumbling beneath him. I didn't need to lift a sword. I didn't need to spill a single drop of blood. I simply let the truth, and the consequences of his own choices, destroy everything he had built. As for Ratan Singh, his financial ruin meant he could no longer maintain his army or his alliances either. Weakened and humiliated, his influence in the region faded within a year. Bhim Singh's marriage to Premika, which had been built purely on political convenience, meant nothing once that convenience disappeared. Premika eventually left that marriage, returning to a life of quiet independence, far from both kingdoms that had used her as a pawn. I never went back to live in Kolhapur. I had no desire to rule, no desire for a throne. What I wanted, what I had spent 3 years building toward, was simply this: for the truth to be known, and for the people responsible to lose everything they valued, the same way I had lost everything I valued. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that day in the garden. The day Ratan Singh first looked at Premika and me with greedy eyes, the day everything started unraveling, though none of us knew it yet. I think about how easily my whole world was destroyed by people I trusted completely, by a single conversation I wasn't even part of. But I also think about this: real power isn't a sword, or a throne, or an army. Real power is patience. Real power is knowing that some wounds don't need revenge delivered in anger. They need it delivered slowly, precisely, until the people who hurt you watch everything they valued crumble with their own eyes, knowing exactly why, and knowing there's nothing left for them to do but live with it. My father once told me that honesty always wins in the end, even if it takes time. He was right. It just took 3 years, a fortune in secret debts, and the truth finally spoken out loud in front of the very people who once celebrated a lie.